everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like you. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Ruben Bressler.
What's up? It's good to see everybody.
It is good to see everybody. We're a little spotty right now, okay? Things are happening. People are moving places. We're traveling. I'm literally moving across the country back to Tennessee next week. So we won't be here. Nerd Girl will be traveling. I will be getting the last bits of my moving stuff to like literally Friday morning. It's like movers come, stuff goes on the truck, you know, off we go. So that's not nerve-wracking or anything.
So when was the last time you lived in Tennessee? I
lived in Tennessee in 2009. And moved to Virginia and the job at Star City in 2010. So
nice.
Yeah.
Been a minute.
Where I'm excited for you. I know how badly you wanted to go back.
Yeah.
You know, it's stomping grounds. You know, I got my friends, got my fam. I know where everything is. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you did 13 years ago.
It's true. So now I get to rediscover where everything is again, and that should be pretty exciting. But that said,
my quick side thing: if anybody's going to be in Dallas DreamHack in the following weekend, please let me know.
That's right.
Yes, DreamHack Dallas. I considered going, but I'm not as much of a stream person, so I didn't want to spend a bunch of money, especially because I'm flying to a bunch of my sister's wedding stuff. So I wish I were there. I wish I were there with you. But for anyone who's going to DreamHack, say hi to Nerd Girl and let them and browbeat her until we show up to events.
And then go watch a match of Counter-Strike at the IEM event, the Intel Extreme Masters event happening there. And know that I'm jelly. Just understand that I wish I could be there watching those people play. That said, we get started with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat. But subscribe first to get 2 chances to win and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. That is thanks to our sponsor CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And the first pick this week is Commander Legends. Battle for Baldur's Gate is more or less completely spoiled. There'll be a few more odds and ends, maybe some commons, uncommons, maybe even a rare. But as we know at this point, all the mythics have been spoiled. I think the big excitement, amazing, things to show from the set have been shown. And that is one hell of a mythic dragon cycle.
Yeah. The ancient elder dragons roll a d20 and do something ridiculous are great. I love them.
My god, they're insane.
They're so cool.
I'm glad we're rolling d20s, but I do think that this is a step beyond what we were doing before in the last D&D set, which I thought was very mild. I definitely want to be rolling d20s. I just don't want to have the d20 determine the entire game.
Sure.
That's fair. And, and you're also, as we discussed, none of these dragons really none of them have haste, do they? I don't think any of them have haste.
None of them have haste.
They'll have to live a whole round or be snuck into play, and then they have to be able to attack. They have to not be blocked. They have to deal damage to, combat damage to a player. You have to check a lot of boxes before you get to roll that awesome D20 and see what goes haywire. But overall, the backgrounds, I think, were very cool. The idea that you can have additional, I'm telling you, the signature spell thing is coming. Like that, to me, that's the next, natural progression is you have a background and you have a signature legendary spell that you need to have your commander on the battlefield in order to play it or whatever. And it will work just like a background.
Yeah. What was that format? Was that Oathbound or something like that? Oathbreaker.
Oathbreaker was that where you would pick a spell, a signature spell, and a character or planeswalker. So, but ultimately, I think backgrounds are really cool, and I think the initiative is pretty neat, though it feels like they didn't go too far on the initiative, ?
Yeah, I'm still a little hazy on... So the initiative is just sort of like the love child of the Monarch and Dungeons.
More or less, yeah.
Once I'm in the... Once I'm in the Undercity, right? Because that's where the initiative takes you. And I venture into the dungeon. Do I keep going into the Undercity?
Yes. But the only way to get into the Undercity is the initiative.
Got it. So that's how they keep it out of like legacy.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's overall, I think the set looks pretty neat. I think what is really lacking, and we discussed this in the pre-show a little bit, was just the reprints. There's no Vampiric Tutor, there's no Scroll Rack, there's no Mana Drain. There's a couple of really good reprints that we had discussed as well. But overall, this feels very much like a new card set, not a here's some reprints and new cards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that when you're doing something like going to a brand new place for Magic that has a lot of history, like Baldur's Gate, you don't necessarily want a bunch of reprints from Magic. The stuff that fits the setting, like a Mind Stone or a Blade of Selves, like those kind of things make sense, but I don't necessarily want reprints for reprint's sake. And we've got plenty of places for reprints coming up soon. I mean, Double Masters is on the horizon. All of those reprints are going to be there.
I do like strategic reprints in every, normal sets as well, just because it makes the cards more attainable. Double Masters packs are going to be $1 bajillion on their own, making a lot of those reprints just not an option for most people, especially if you're drafting or whatever. So when you have things like Thoughtseize or whatever placed in a regular set, it makes those cards come down a little bit and makes things like Pioneer and Modern more accessible to everyday people, which I think is important.
It feels to me like they pulled a lot of punches with the reprints in Commander Legends 2 in order to put them in Double Masters 2022. You know what I mean? Like, I expect Dockside Extortionist to be in Double Masters. I expect Smothering Tithe to be in Double Masters. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
certain things they could have put in the Commander set, they just put in the big reprint money set because they're money.
Okay. I mean, they gave us some good reprints. They gave us, well, first of all, they gave us the multiplayer land reprints.
Yeah.
The Sea of Clouds cycle. And then they gave us a couple of, cards that needed reprinting. They gave us the Kindred Discovery, right? So they gave us some of that. And it's not, again, this isn't a Masters expansion and this isn't a standard set. It's a Commander set. So I'm not horrifically broken up that we didn't get a bunch of those, especially because, coming back to the beginning, we did get this ridiculous cycle of roll a d20 dragons.
Yeah.
Which just make me happy to look at. Like, I know they're not competitive. They're not good. Like, we read them and we go, wow, if you hit your opponent, you draw 11 cards. I mean, okay, but if you play an 8-drop and untap with it, sure.
And connect with it, you get your D-roll.
It's sort of like the Tarask, right? Everybody wanted the Tarask to be bigger and better because of what it represented in the D&D world. So they're giving us a little bit of that. Now, real quick, my 2 cents on the set is I'm excited to see adventures back, because what goes better with D&D than an adventure? Let's do it. And I don't think it was a crappy mechanic. I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'm glad to see it.
No, I love it. I was talking to a friend of mine about adventures, and he was saying, the next level of adventures is, you have the adventure part, and you have the regular creature part, and then you have one more activation that flips them and transforms them into like the final adventure or whatever version of the character.
Sure.
Which would be kind of neat.
I love these. I just think that, you're 100% right. The Monster Manual being my standout for flavor and for function, it's just spectacular.
Quick expansion on what Evan said. So you get the spell,
right?
You have the creature.
Right.
If you level up the creature, it flips into the Holy Grail, like an artifact or something.
Sure.
That'd be sick.
Would that be awesome?
Like, completed the quest.
Yes,
you completed the quest. It's another. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Awesome. Yeah, like the fact that they should have included party, but I get how they didn't, and you can't include everything.
Right.
But still, the adventures are great. I don't care if artifacts go on adventures. Like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Very cool. Several non creatures ended up with adventure, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, which is very neat. Now, and what I feel is going to be a unfortunate and repeated instance is that Magic Online is not getting all of the goodies that they were expecting because there's the transition to Daybreak Games taking care of the client versus Wizards internally doing so. So the set was not going to be released on Magic Online. They're going to add a selection of cards to treasure chests, excuse me, starting on June 15th. So that's just, I feel like it's going to be more of that as we get, we keep going, because, there's transition into Magic Online being sort of upkept over the years versus sort of an active, tip of the spear type, what Wizards cares about. So,
yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm not sure how long it's been since Wizards thought of Magic Online that way.
It's unfortunate. I feel like people were very excited to hear, because it's been so forgotten. They were excited to hear it's moving to a new company because they thought there was, there's a chance now that it will be taken care of. But I think historically, the company that this is going to, and companies like this is where games go to die. This is a group of people running the servers and nothing else, because, there would be an uproar if the company just stopped supporting it. And that is a little sad to see. It is interesting that the Commander set is not going onto the only platform we can actually play Commander on, versus they're putting it onto Arena when we cannot play Commander on Arena.
Like, are they even going to get backgrounds into Magic Online? I think that's a giant question mark. They're just talking about a resource crunch compounded by complexities of transitioning, blah, blah, blah. They do note that Double Masters, Dominaria, United, and Brothers War are all on track to ship all the cards at launch as usual. And we'll see. This was something that we had kind of warned about, that Magic Online is likely to get worse than better when you kind of farm it out to the, the people who just keep the servers running. So we shall see. And unfortunately, it looks to be there are a few product delays with draft boosters and draft multi-packs and stuff around America and some other parts of the world and APAC and stuff. There's a link in the description for this video and or podcast if you want to check out that stuff. Let's move on here to Gather the Townsfolk. And that is, of course, thanks to our sponsor, cardhoarder.com, offering the latest and best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. Check them out. Tell them we sent you. Gather the Townsfolk starts out here with a really cool Judge Academy merchandise box. This is neat. I'll put the tweet here in the chat, and again, it will be in the description for you guys, which basically notes that there is a $300 merchandise box that L2 plus judges can order, which gives them, a host of judge promos, 8 judge promos and the hats and some lanyards and some art pins and some play mats and all sorts of really cool stuff, which I thought was kind of neat. And it's one of the first times I've seen Wizards really kind of get it, or Judge Academy really kind of get it together for judges to offer them, like, here is your package, here's what you've kind of earned to get.
Yeah.
And it's nice, just all together.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm very up in the air on the Judge Academy stuff. It's a for-profit. So I feel like Wizards is giving them most of this stuff, and they're selling it to the judges in hopes that the judges could resell it for more value to pay them for their work.
Yeah.
The whole thing feels kind of yucky to me. So I will not, I don't know. I don't want this stuff to be valuable because I don't want Judge Academy to be profiting off of it. But also, if it's not valuable, then the judges aren't being paid. And that also is icky. So it's a terrible thing.
Interesting.
I don't think I fully understand what the problem is.
I'm not, in one way I can see that, it sucks that it's sort of a for-profit venture, but I would think that the argument that the judge promos would offset a lot of that cost. Then you don't want those judges relying on that to sort of as like their salary. That's the whole reason that the DCI judge program died, was
right,
because they paid the judges in foils, and then that's tax evasion when you don't put that as.
I think that we should just pay judges. I think we should just take their record-breaking profits and just pay judges. I think we should do that.
I agree with you. I agree that Wizards should just pay the judges, but they're not gonna.
Oh no,
because they don't acknowledge them as employees.
Right.
But instead, they'll pay a third-party company who will then, give the judges something to make profit off of them to have Channel Fireball then buy the judges for.
So, but like, who gets punished by not getting these, and who gets rewarded by getting these? isn't the same as who gets punished by wanting the judges to get paid, right? Like the fact that it is a for-profit company, obviously this feels gross. Obviously, Judge Academy being its own sovereign entity, making its own money off of cards that are printed by Wizards of the Coast, promo cards that are printed by Wizards of the Coast, is weird. I get it. And I wish that the world were different. But this is what we have. So
this
what
is all that's left of the Judge
now?
program. You know, like,
right? Like,
I bring this up in a way that, like, I recognize that it's not what we would like for it to be. You know, I would love for the judges to get paid and for them to get sweet promo packs that let them, you know, happen. They get it on top of that. That would be awesome. But
we'd all love that.
This is our compromise currently, and I like rewarding judges. So to me, I see a lot of this as rewarding judges. May not be the most rewards. They could be better rewards. You could be happier about it. I don't know, but, like, you know. I'm doing what I can.
It just seems so weird that Wizards had to stop giving these promos as partial payment. Mm-hmm. So in order to legally distance themselves from it, they are now giving them to a company that will then sell them to the judges that only judges can buy to increase their value, so that way the judges could resell them for money, because that's what they need to, you know, eat. So it's icky, and I wish we could fix it.
We're definitely in icky territory. So the Beadles and Grimm's people, the Matthew Lillard driven company to make really cool, exciting stuff for Magic and D&D, discussed their secret lair today on the Magic stream for Here Be Dragons, which I didn't know this. Apparently back, you know, in the day, cartographers, map makers, when they didn't have a map portion of the map known, they would just put Here Be Dragons, like, literally on old maps, which I thought was cool as hell.
Yeah.
And so 7 epic foil dragon themed cards. They didn't say what, plus a deck box, plus sleeves, plus a life counter. This life counter, I want to see if I can get it up on the screen for you guys, is a giant, I would almost argue, old school metal life counter that spins. It's a 2-piece metal thing, and you spin it around with a little pointer around the edge to show what your life total is. From what they tell us, or what they told us, there are only going to be 10,000 of these made. 10,000 of these packages, secret layers, or whatever. And so on June 13th, you know, another one of those, probably in your best interest to snag one if you feel like putting your money somewhere and reselling. Dragons
sell. That's just that's a rule.
Yeah.
From the Vault Dragons was the first From the Vault, and that thing is a gazillion dollars. I would anticipate some, I don't even know what dragon reprints there need to be anymore, but I'm sure that there's going to be some excellent promo versions, some excellent original versions of new cards.
Yeah, I mean, also Beadle and Grimm kind of just goes over the top for everything that they produce. So there's going to be a bunch of other neat things with it. I have one of the 1,500 print run backpack things. So, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some cool stuff here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that life counter alone, like, it's going to be worth a whole bunch of money. So that's going to be sweet, and we'll see what they choose and how cool those cards.
I think what dragons need reprints. Is Murktide Regent is a dragon? They could put that in there.
I think so.
I think it's a dragon. That's a new card, but
I would love to look behind the curtain as to what restrictions Wizards puts on the cards that you can choose. You know, you're just like, I want Force to Will the Mana Drain in my secret lair, and they're like, whoa, buddy,
right?
Let's back the train up a little bit here. But
I'm sure they probably didn't even get to choose. I'm sure some team decided what the dragon thing would be, and then Wizards was like, hey, this would be a cool thing to farm out to Beadle and Grimm. And then that was that. And I'm guessing their internal structure has a lot to do with excitement points, where people make suggestions and they tally up the excitement, and we see if it's in the ballpark of what we want to create.
Yep.
The excitement points. Yes. There was a interesting sort of distinction about Jumpstart 2022 and Jumpstart Dominaria United. Now, they announced that they're going to do Jumpstart sets for every single Premier set release, which, again, I think is brilliant. I think Jumpstart's great. I swear to God, Jumpstart Commander is coming. You heard it here. I'm calling it. I called it many times ago, but Commander Jumpstart is coming. That said, Jumpstart 2022 is going to be its own product outside of Jumpstart Dominaria. So let's Jumpstart while you Jumpstart, so you can start while you jump.
That's a lot of sets. So we've got the Premier set, we've got the Jumpstart set, we've got the Alchemy set, all for the same thing. Yeah, open your wallets. It's gonna get expensive.
You pour the money in. You pour the money in, and they let you play with the magical cards. That's what we do here.
And Jumpstart is known for having different set symbols as well for the reprint cards from previous sets. So you're going to get, another playset of your Wind Rider Sphinxes and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
And,
oh, God.
Like, I had the alternate art style, like the drawn version of Thalia from, I think it's Crimson Vow or the other one. But either way, I didn't own 4 of that version. I owned 3 of that version and 4 of the previous, which I think was Jumpstart version or one of the historic whatever anthologies. And so then I had to craft my 8th Thalia in order to play 4 Thalias that all had the same treatment on them. And I still can't choose my default styles.
You know what you could have done? You could have just played the other Thalia you had 4 of.
Yeah, but that's not...
Yeah, but I didn't want to play those. Or you could have just played 3 Thalias.
Now you're throwing wild cards and money for cosmetics just down the drain.
Yeah.
And he's like, soda costs too much.
I am like, soda costs too much, also buying card styles.
Yeah, soda wouldn't be such a problem.
I am a grown man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Here to Desperate Ravings. Oh, check out our
Speaking
Alter
of
Sleeves.
Desperate Ravings, yeah.
Check out our Alter Sleeves, y'all. Support the show by using the code MAGICMICS at checkout for 5% off anything in that store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mike's crew at altersleeves.com/MagicMikes. Check them out. Tell them we said hello. So PVDDR, old Paulo Vitor, our reigning world champion, had some problems, specifically this past weekend. This past weekend was the set championship for the Streets of New Capenna set championship, right?
Yep.
And they had a whole bunch of weird problems, client crashes, people being awarded, wins when they actually lost, but then they thought they won, but then they didn't win. Sort of the long and short of this one, and I appreciate the Twitter account Library of Ling, library_of_Ling, who try to give you sort of a TLDR of this, which they said in the final rounds of the New Capenna Championship, world's eligible player PVDDR shares how 2 others in the running get awarded buys late in the event, with controversy about how they shared the events as well as how admins handled the bug, which sucks. And ultimately, PVDDR got even though there were people who had like less points than him, they got into Worlds and he didn't. There's a whole host of like what is going on with organized play, as honestly they sunset that entire organized play system.
Yeah, there was a lot of things going on here. I think some of it, as far as the upset of the community, is justified, and I think some of it's probably a bit of overreacting. Not the whole issue with pairings and all of that stuff, but like a lot of people are just genuinely like, how is 2 years ago World Championship not qualified? This is unacceptable. Like, we need to like fix this somehow. Whereas like, I don't necessarily agree with that. Just because you were the world champion, I don't think you should have automatic invites, right? But the idea that they had the 2 different competitive brackets, and there was an allotment of invites for each bracket that was different. Mm-hmm. So people from the lower bracket with less qualifying points than Paulo from the higher bracket got in just because there weren't enough slots. And I think that he's then being punished for being in the higher bracket, and that is an error in the system. That should not be, I think. And then, of course, the bugs and things is definitely way worse, where 2 people in contention in his same range played against each other and both got wins, knocking him out further from the point structure, because one of them should have taken a loss,
right, making
it easier for him to get in. Yet again, another thing that went against Paulo, which I feel is very, very unfortunate.
And one of the things he also explained is that his Hall of Fame status is somehow really detrimental to him qualifying for certain events. The Hall of Fame benefits have changed greatly over the years from when they first existed, and the Hall of Fame I would like to have come back sooner than later, but whatever. Either way, he's a Hall of Famer, so he gets one Pro Tour invite, I guess per year, or per season, whatever they want to call it. But the catch is, if he tries to qualify for any of those Pro Tours, he can't use his free invite for that Pro Tour, which sounds insane and makes no sense whatsoever to me. Like, is this about competitive integrity? What are you talking about? Like, why?
Yeah, I feel like if you get one free gimme, then that you have the luxury to not shoot and have to try for one, but you shouldn't be penalized for trying for one.
Yeah. That sounds like back in the day when people would protect their DCI ratings and not play in tournaments. That's encouraging him to not play Magic, which is bad.
Which is just horrible. So there's a whole host of really weird and awkward and terrible things going on between how they dealt with stuff and the bugs and the slots and the penalizing of these 30 people in the world that are in the Hall of Fame, which is also insane.
I will also add, though, that Paulo was kind of in his feelings on Twitter about how the end of this championship tournament wound up. I think that he dropped his last two matches and then tweeted some things that he later deleted. And I mean, I'm going to forgive some tilt tweeting.
Yeah.
That's fine. And also your PV, you can do what you want. You know what I mean? Like, Dolly Parton made an NFT, which is not great, but Dolly Parton's Dolly Parton. She can do what she wants. I'm going to forgive a little bit of tilt tweeting from PV here. And it did uncover some bad stuff that is at this point, stuff we're just complaining about because it's no longer relevant.
It's also really silly. Speaking of things that are really silly, Warhammer 40K prices. The prices for all of these commander decks are not cheap. I think partly because there is a license fee involved. And also, Wizards is making a collector version of commander decks, something they've never done before. And so when you're looking at $550 for 4 collector decks, all I'm saying is those collector decks are new, weird, and have never been done before. And I can't tell you how many times that is the magical sauce for something being stupidly expensive years from now. Like, the first time they've ever done it, and there's probably not going to be a bunch available, and it's a really hot pop property that will never probably see a reprint.
Deciding if this is Secret Lair: The Walking Dead, because that's what it feels like.
It feels very close. I think it's very close.
It feels like Secret Lair: The Walking Dead instead of a commander deck. What I mean by that is that it's collectors who are not Magic players,
right?
And is that driving the price? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think that the price is just being set.
It's both. I mean, I can tell you that the cost on these decks is way higher than your average commander deck, which is honestly expected. But also the base ones are higher than your average commander deck because I think of licensing fees. But the idea that there's not going to be a lot of around is I think a sound one. And if you want them, I'd grab them early and we're going to have this same situation when Lord of the Rings comes around. Like, they're going to make Lord of the Rings decks. They're going to make Lord of the Rings collector stuff. And it's going to feel very reserved listy in that. When are they going to be able to reprint Gandalf, right? Like, might be a couple decades. Yeah. So, Warhammer 40K, 5 years from now, this stuff's going to be $1 million. And maybe somebody comes back and listens to this and says, man, they had the chance to snag them right then.
Yeah, the other thing with Warhammer is that Warhammer is a collectible in and of itself already, whereas something like The Walking Dead or even Street Fighter is another media property as opposed to a game property. So, and I don't think we've even seen anything like if the partnership with Riot, for example, or Fortnite, that's not even a 1-to-1 ratio either, because you have to buy the miniatures and paint them, and it's a lot more like Magic in that way. It's a lot more native of a translation for these cards. So I guess it's not terribly surprising that these are $500 plus for the full collection. It's just a sticker shock.
It is.
It is definitely sticker shock. Yeah, we saw the same thing with like the Beadle and Grimm backpack, right?
Yeah.
Like that was pricey. We're also seeing these, the collector booster for the new D&D set. Isn't that like 4 packs at like $100 and something obnoxious?
The double masters collectors.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's 4 packs, y'all. 4.
4 packs. So like the sticker price is actually what we're like kind of almost expecting, but for a whole dang box.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting worse, and as it gets worse, people are clamoring to buy them more because they think it's going to be more of a collector item, which is making them more of a collector item, which is making Wizards charge more.
There's
It's a
a
vicious cycle.
Oh yeah, the whales have spoken. Like, just to give you some context here, at Cool Stuff Inc.
I pictured Dory speaking whale. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it turns out those are dollar signs. Like the whales have spoken, and basically we sell at Cool Stuff on a 2-to-1 ratio, the normal version versus any special showcased foil, extended art foil. We sell the regular versions twice as much as the other versions because people just want cards that do the thing. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily care about extended art foil etched so and so. A few do. And that's great. And that's what Wizards is catering to here. But the vast majority of players are just like, give me the cheapest version that you possibly can find.
Sure. Yeah, there are the players, and then there are the people with Magic in their in their closet that probably haven't played a ton in the last 10 years, and then that's it. And let's be honest, most of the people who have the amount of money to buy these products don't have a lot of time to play Magic.
Yeah,
so expensive.
Yeah.
Now, so I have two thoughts. One is $550 sounds like a lot of dollars. Look at your commander decks at home. I mean, I play against people that have $1,000 commander decks. You're getting 4 commander decks for that much.
I mean, I assume the cards in it aren't worth that much.
We don't know
yet. Maybe.
Like blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Like, dude, that's going to be a thing.
We don't know yet, but I'm going to say $1.50 a card is a better ratio than any other commander deck you're ever going to get.
Yeah, if the excitement points are in the deck, then I can see it, but I'm just wondering how much of this is overpriced for the having to purchase the licensing.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And
the other,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that to me, I promise you I'll bring this back to Magic. To me, the housing crisis that's happening right now is different than the housing crisis that happened 10 years ago, partially because hedge funds are picking up houses and buying them. And when a hedge fund picks up a house and takes it off the market, it doesn't go back on the market. It just sits in the portfolio and becomes an asset that they trade with other hedge funds. That's what's going to happen with these collectibles. Is they aren't going to, if they get bought up by all the collectors, they're not going to go on the open market. It's just going to make it worse.
I mean, it's going to, there's going to be supply demand. There are going to be singles available of this stuff. It's just that how much is there going to be? How expensive is it going to be? You can go back and look at Double Feature when I was like, no one wants this stupid product. That means it's going to be $1 million, and nobody wanted it, and it's $1 million. So like this is not nobody wants it. It's that I think a lot of people want it, and that there's going to be very few available. That the license, the new cards, Wizards is able to juice these as much as they want. Like, yeah, there's a license fee, but it costs them $0 to choose to put a dual land or a shock land or whatever they want in any of these things. So we'll see. Let's see here, Ruben. You want to tackle that next one?
Oh, sure. Hey, everybody.
Oh,
are you still not Dragon?
It's not bad. It's
Okay. Well, hey, everybody. SCG Con exists and is a thing, and they have responded in some ways to the consternation pertaining to their health and safety guidelines. The event that this Twitlonger website keeps popping up ads on my computer. Sorry. They launched their mini site for SCG Con in Syracuse and the health and safety section was changed, and there was a whole lot of discussion on the internet pertaining to this.
I missed this part, so why are we tiptoeing around it so much?
No, this was...
I really hesitate to even call this brand new news because we've already talked about this. However, they did respond. So I'm not trying to tiptoe. I'm trying to
context.
I'm trying to give context. Okay. So they screwed the pooch on their announcement, right? They screwed their pooch on their announcement.
I remember that.
Then they said, hey, sorry, everybody, we screwed the pooch on our announcement. But they did it like an hour before Baldur's Gate previews started. So it got buried in some news. And they also didn't really change anything.
And the announcement that they were changing and why they were changing was not put on the website. And so, as we had discussed previously, so we had discussed this on the 12th, and then the 17th is when they came out with this exact announcement. And again, that was also the same day as those previews and so on. So, the idea that they changed them, again, as we discussed previously, this is because they changed them to make them worse and to make them, lose those restrictions. And, I wish they hadn't done that. And then they came out with this explanation that just seemed to put a lot of gasoline on a really ugly fire. And
the other thing that happened as a result of some of this was that apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently Star City Games has a Discord. And this Discord also became a garbage fire with a lot of vaccine discussion.
I'm sure by medical experts who knew exactly what they were talking about.
Exactly. So again, I'm not trying to beat around the bush here. I don't have all of the details because I just don't tread in those particular corners of the internet. They tried to make an announcement. They appeared to themselves pussyfoot around the issue, and as a result have received some backlash.
All right, so for everybody who doesn't exactly know what's going on, Star City Games is not requiring masks and vaccinations, if I'm not mistaken. People are very, very upset, and they are trying to bury it and don't really care and aren't going to change anything. So if you like vaccines and masks and are worried for your health, maybe don't go. And that's the gist of the news. And hopefully they change it and protect the people going to their events in the future.
Yes, agreed.
There you go. All right then. Well, that said, I think we will go ahead and there was some splash damage around Pokemon, but like whatever, they have peelable cards. We'll probably have more peelable cards that aren't just that secret layer that has one. It's really weird that we have to list a peeled and unpeeled version of stuff to sell, which is kind of hilarious.
I do want to talk about this Emma Partlow article.
Sure, go for it.
So Emma Partlow wrote an article for Dicebreaker called MTG Cares More About Collectibility Than Accessibility, and it's making the TCG worse. If you have the Going Infinite graphic, we could certainly go there with this.
Sure.
This was a really interesting piece, and I thought it was pretty compelling. We have a lot of these really cool borders and a lot of these really cool printings that we get now. We were talking about how much we like it when certain of these are done, like the D&D like old rulebook frames.
Right.
And some of these special printings are super cool. But this article that she wrote sort of said that's coming at the detriment of accessibility because it's a visual game. The game system needs to still be played. And if you're a new player or someone that has issues with cognitive issues of some kind, then it's not helpful.
Yeah, I would say that this argument won in the early days of Magic, right? Like they used to do multiple artworks for stuff back in the day, and Fallen Empires and Homelands and Alliances. There are multiple artworks for the same card, Hymn to Turok, for example. And then they just stopped doing them. And then they literally, at one point, I think we found a quote on a website at one point that said they didn't do them because they felt it was confusing to have different artworks for the same card. And then at some point, I think new leadership came in and they said, yeah, we don't care. Let's make super cool versions of stuff and sell it. And they did, and it sold.
Let's not just make different art versions. Let's rename the whole dang card.
Mm-hmm.
I do not like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the argument of making sure that the fundamentals of what a Magic card is and what a Magic card looks like, there is a line, and it is a gradient, but there is a line that you don't necessarily want to cross, and Wizards is getting closer and closer to that line. I think that it does. Well, the point at which new players become alienated or confused.
And I just don't think that's I get sort of what she was getting at, but for what it's worth, I disagree. I don't think it's a problem at all. And if anything, it's just made Magic more successful. People like having unique versions of stuff that they can, their personality, I feel, is a lot of why people buy the version they do. Or, they want the cheapest version because they just want to play the card that says what it does.
Right. I think that it's an argument of, it's another thing that is appealing to the whales, as opposed to trying to get new players, because Magic doesn't really have a problem with getting new players anymore. They don't really need to worry about onboarding anymore. So if it can be as difficult to get into as anything, because they have enough players and enough turnover and enough whales, that it's more important to have all of these different printings than it is to have the accessibility.
Another thing that might help remove new players or players that aren't whales from the market is that, arguably, we get all these alternate arts even in regular packs, not just collector boosters, that could drive up the price or the cost to make the set, which is being given back to the consumer even for the base versions of a pack.
Yeah.
While they're cool, and sometimes those things are worth more, so the contents of the pack are still worth more, but now we're just pricing out a huge bracket of the player base, or the people who would like to become in the player base but cannot. And I think that's part of the reason why Arena and esports failed, is because unlike Hearthstone, there is no free track. Not everybody could aspire to be the next pro, because not everybody could even get into the game.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and a note here in chat, Slago Yank says that more successful and better are not the same thing. And for what it's worth, largely that's true. But when it comes to capitalism, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
If it sells more, then you did a good job.
Yeah, we've had this is another in a long line of discussions about what does success versus what does profitable mean. This is just a new take on it based on, the very strange printings that we've seen of cards recently.
I agree with Evan, what you were saying about how profit and success are the same in some situations, but what Yanks mentions specifically is profit and making the game itself better, which is different, I think.
That's fair.
Yes.
The quality of the game doesn't necessarily improve as multiple versions of cards exist, but I do think that there's aspects of it in terms of the customizability of what you play with and how that helps sort of define you and your style and your taste and stuff like that. I love those options. I think that's really cool.
I'll say this. I think coverage gets worse. I think that watching it gets worse.
I agree
so
with that.
if you're trying to be an esport, then having 85 different printings of every Magic card is actually not going to help you. So that's another angle of, do we want to sell all these cards? We want to sell all these special printings, but it is going to come at the cost of not just accessibility of players, but accessibility of fans.
And we haven't hit that yet. Like, has there been a major paper tournament coverage since we've had all of these, honestly, since more or less Eldraine-ish forward, because the worldwide,
really. I mean,
the
we
Schmandemic did serious damage to any paper coverage. There's some commander play, certainly, but in terms of high level pro Magic using different versions of cards, I don't think we've seen that yet. And I mean, I'm interested. I think you're 100% right. If people are going like, wait, is that version so and so of such and such? Maybe.
Well, we did have a pro tour with Hazaret. And I don't think anyone played the Amonkhet invocation stuff with with Hazaret or with any of the like Torrential Gear Hulk during Kaladesh or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's possible, especially with Arena and all the card styles.
Right. And
so.
Yeah, I was curious. It did look like they gave them an account that had most, or if not all, of the card styles unlocked to play for the event, which I thought was kind of neat. But either way, that's that.
I just thought it was a very interesting article. Did we link it in the chat?
It'll be in the show notes.
If not, I will link it in the chat and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yep, it's in the show notes for sure, and please link in the chat. Cool. Turn the corner here to the finisher. Not everything needs a dark, gritty reboot, but some things definitely do. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is a mysterious and violent upcoming new horror movie reimagining the classic A.A. Milne character. So tell me, what's the R-rated MTG reboot you're hoping for, Ruben?
Well, imposters are among us. Keep your friends close and your potential enemies closer. Morphs versus Manifests coming to a board state near you because everything's a willbender until proven otherwise.
There you go. Nerd Girl?
All right, coming soon to a theater near you, The Adversary. Hell is empty because all the devil tokens are here.
That's right. Well, look, there is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide this summer. Prepared to get totally lost with the Fibblethip Chainsaw Massacre. Coming at you. And that ends the live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
We're going to move here to our final slide. All right. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves. My co-host, MTG Nerd Girl, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online in our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week. Same time. Okay, not next week. The week after, because I'm moving. Next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.